Hello, this video will be a show off of the Chrome extension EquatIO, a useful Google Chrome extension for math teachers of any level. This video will be presented as if to colleagues who are familiar with Google Drive, for Gmail, who may be looking at this particular extension for the first time. One thing that we have figured out as math teachers over the course of the shutdown was that math work on the computer isn't necessarily easy, mostly because it's difficult for students to locate even the basic symbols, such as division symbols, square root symbols, fraction symbols, and so forth. It can make it very difficult for students to respond to math because they're spending more time figuring out how to write the symbols into a Google Doc instead of actually worrying about the math work. So the extension I'm going to show off today is going to eliminate a lot of those problems. It's going to make students responding and creating math work on a Google Doc much easier, much more accessible, and much quicker. It also can make designing notes using Google Docs and using math symbols much easier for teachers. So using math on Google Docs and having kids respond to it in Google Docs becomes a much more viable option than it was in the past. The EquatIO extension, which I already have on here, is in the extension store. So once you download it, you'll see the symbol up here. If I open a Google Doc, it is going to bring up this little bar at the bottom with lots of different things on it. We're not going to go through all of these, but most of these we will be taking a look at in depth. So the basic one is the equation editor. So if I click on it, it brings up the screen. Notice now my cursor is frozen on the Google Doc, and now I'm just going to be typing on here. Once I finish typing, the insert math key will light up, and then I can actually insert whatever I've written onto my Google Doc. Okay, so obviously with a regular computer, you can do a basic 2 plus 3, or with the basic, using addition, subtraction, multiplication. So the division symbol is actually on here. Pretty difficult to find in a Google Doc itself. But say if I go here, you're going to go all the way to the end, into the 3 dots where I've got a bunch of different symbols up here. I've got actually about 5 different options up the top. So say if I wanted to do a sample problem, say if I want to do 64 divided by 8. I'm going to type in 64. Then I'm going to click on the 3 dots. I'm going to click on where the pi symbol is. This is actually the section where you could actually locate some of the basic symbols. If you notice, I've got division, I've got multiplication, I've got greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and so forth, not equal to, congruent, approximately. I've got fractions here, absolute value, as well more complicated symbols that you might find in, say, trigonometry, calculus, so on and so forth. But I'm just focusing with basic division now. Insert the division symbol and then my number. And pretty basic there. And now if I wanted to actually put that into my Google Doc, I'm going to go Insert Math. And it will insert it eventually as its own image. And you can treat it kind of like a Google image here, because you can resize it, you can rotate it, you can copy and paste it, you can move it, and so forth. So you can't alter the symbols once it's there. If I want to replace it, I'd have to do it all over again. So if I want to create a basic problem on there, that would be one way I could do it. Say if I want to do a square root problem, such as say the square root of 49. I can actually go to where it says like the t squared right there. It gives me the option, kind of like the font options, bold, italic, underline, strike through. It also gives me the square root option. I'm not sure why it says here, not with the symbols, but that's the way this program works. It gives me the symbols right there. I can say the square root of 49 is equal to 7. Once again, I can insert the problem there, and it will come up in the original size. Even though I made this one bigger, I can make this one bigger as well. Notice there's not really a way to adjust the font size on here, but it does get you the basics across as far as what you want to put on there. Those are some of the basic operations. And if I can create subscripts, fractions. I could do geometry such as ray symbols, line symbols, and so forth. If I want to do, say, like roots and powers, again, that gets a little bit trickier. I could do matrices here. I could even do, say, two-step division problem. In the traditional columns, which is, can be doable on a computer or on a Google Doc, but it doesn't look that great. Here, like, all the columns are actually lined up. I can do long division. Get, get out of the subtraction problem first. You got to be careful so you don't overlap your problems. Let's say if I could do long division. Say if I wanted to do 134. I can actually have the columns as with long division. And then I can do the calculations and so choose it just like in the columns, just like I had with the doubles, with the multi-column subtraction problem right there. This can be useful. I teach high school ESL math, but this could be a useful thing even for elementary or middle school math too, if you're looking for kids to do these types of problems on the computer. There's also a formula section, which can actually be very useful. If a little bit unorganized, as you see, it kind of goes different, it goes difference quotient, it goes to starts off with some calculus problems, but it does go into a bit more some common ones, so volume, area, and so forth. Circumference, arithmetic sequence, geometric sequence. It's got a pretty good library that covers a lot of bases right here. You can do a search for it. So say if I wanted to put the formula for a square in there, or for formula from perimeter in there, I can do that. And it's got a full library in there to look at. You could also have favorites in two. So if I wanted to add actually particular favorites to this, I can do that as well. So again, this does reduce some of the complexity of this does reduce the complexity of having to insert different types of symbols into your Google Doc with math. So the different ones on here, I've got it's kind of like the HTML version of this. This is a good feature too. If you're having difficulty like locating particular formulas or making certain symbols, you can actually do this as far with the handwriting option. So if you've got the doable screen with this, what you can do is you can actually draw whatever symbol you're looking for, and then it'll actually appear right here on the screen as long as the computer can decipher it. So again, let me go back to the square root problem. Imagine if I did the square root of 64. If I draw it on my screen, as long as it's close enough, I can do it. It'll appear just as it is in the math box over there. I can do this for equations as well. See if I did parentheses 2x plus 3 equals 99. The square root of 64 is still there, but it appears right there. This could actually be a good thing if you don't want to take the chance, don't want to take the time of actually seeking out some of the symbols. You want to do the handwriting option if the screen allows for it, obviously. You can do that as well as long as your handwriting is clear enough. You can also do speech input too. Now, I'm going to use the one disadvantage of this, and this it's for me, it's a disadvantage because I work primarily with Spanish-speaking kids. The speech-to-text doesn't necessarily recognize Spanish, but it does recognize English with your computer's microphone. So if I go to Start Speech Input, once again, I'm going to give a sample math problem, and we'll see how the speech input does with it. The square root of 49 is 7. Picked up the speech, and it picked up the math as well. I have to turn that off. Obviously anything, if you, as you see, anything unmath related doesn't even appear on there. So that could be another option as well. Just for instead of students having to go search for symbols, they obviously would have to double check their work on that as well. And you can still have access if you want to add in written things, written symbols or other parts on there. You can still add it in even as you get the speech option turned on. Okay. You can do this as a mobile app on your phone, compatible, of course, with an Android, and is compatible with an iPhone as well. So you can actually make a nice little mobile device on here if you're doing your math work at home, which some of my students have done. Using the Schoology app and so forth. Now, suppose I wanted to actually transfer some of this information, take a photo of it. I can go to the screenshot reader, create a box. So that does transform it, and that can be a little bit wonky because, as you see, it transferred my subtraction problem into fraction problems, which obviously that was not the intention right there. Okay, so again, a useful tool if you're looking to use Google Doc inside your math class. I highly recommend using this. I'm going to be using it more with my students this year. We're going to download it onto our laptops and use it for my ESL pre-algebra class, especially if we go virtual again and we need to make the math work more flexible. This can make it a lot easier for students to access to access some of the basic symbols of math. It probably would require its own separate lesson if you want to use this video to do that. If you want to use, something similar to it, just so your kids know the basics of it. I would highly recommend this extension app for any math teacher, especially on the high school level, but even on the elementary and the middle school level. Best of luck with this for now, and please contact me if you have any questions.